guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In today's video, we are going to be covering a handful of items as well as techniques that you should be using in the War Within to make as much gold as possible. This includes actually increasing the amount of gold you get per item, as well as just making the crafting process a bit easier and faster to make more gold per hour. I've compiled this specific list based on the most frequently asked questions that I get, questions I get on streams or, on Discord or anything like that, and hopefully this will help a wide range of people. As long as you're a crafter, so it doesn't matter if you're a tailor, blacksmith, etc., you should be able to learn something from this video and help you out. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in, and I hope you enjoy. And the first thing that I want to talk about are finishing reagents as well as profession bags. These both are kind of in the same category because I feel like these are items that people forget about, but these finishing reagents as well as profession bags can be the difference between profit and non-profit. Now, there are many finishing reagents that you can get, whether they're crafted, whether they are found or a drop, and they can apply to a bunch of different professions. I'll have a few examples on screen, but I really want to highlight cooking for this example. First of all, if you guys are kind of unfamiliar exactly what finishing reagents are, these are just items that you can add to your craft, so it'll add, a little bit of a crafting cost, but you'll get something out of it. And in particular, the thing that I want to highlight is the hot honeycomb. This is actually a farmed finishing reagent that people are selling on the auction house, and this can be used with cooking, and it basically just increases your chance of multi-craft. So for example, if we open up our cooking right here, and let's start taking a look at some prices. So we're gonna open up our auction house, and let's go look at feast because feast are pretty important, and let's search. Based on current prices, as well as my skill, which is 100, as well as my tools, as you can see, we are losing 600 gold per craft with this feast, which obviously means, we should not craft this. This is going to lose us 25% gold. That's awful. But what happens if we actually add a finishing reagent? If we go here and select our reagent, as you can see, that multi-craft went up a lot. We were dealing with 2, now we're at 36, and our profit is actually positive now, because the perks of using this finishing reagent is outweighed by the cost of the finishing reagent, which right now it's costing about 76 gold. Now the thing is that in this example, right, we're still dealing with a 6% margin. That can be pretty slim, but you can apply this to anything. If we take a look at the everything stew, once again, right here, it's unprofitable, but if we apply the honeycomb, there we go, we're now looking at 11% profit. And this is very, very popular with a lot of these full belly recipes. My particular favorite, which I know a lot of people are doing, are these deep fin patties. By default, they are actually okay profitable. You kind of have to be careful because the, hammerfish kind of goes up in price drastically, right? Right now, the lowest is 30 gold, but if you actually buy in bulk, it goes up to 38. So you do have to be careful with that, right? If we actually override our price right here and put in 38 gold, as you can see, it's still profitable, but we're looking at 7%. But if we apply that honeycomb, boom, we're now up to 34%. And so our crafting cost, is probably about 600 gold, including that honeycomb, and we're making some great profit. So finishing reagents really can make the difference between profit versus not profit. Now, looking at a more standard profession, so this is just tailoring right here, you can apply the same thing. However, this is kind of where tip number 2 kind of crawls into place, and this is CraftSim itself. So for example, let's say we wanted to make some weaver cloth bolts, we check, and at the moment they're not currently profitable. But you gotta remember that I'm using some, different reagents right here, so my profit is not necessarily accurate. What I can do is actually go into simulation mode and then say, okay, I want to use all quality 1 reagents, and this will actually update my average profit. So we're still looking at negative 3%. If we go to quality 2, as you can see, it actually jumps up to 20, and if we go to quality 3, it's about 8%, but we can see how the difference of reagents changes our profit. And the reason why I bring up this simulation mode is because this is where you can also simulate with finishing reagents. So if you're not like me, for example, I already have hot honeycombs in my inventory, but let's say you don't and you still want to see the effect, you can go over here and actually go through the different finishing reagents that affect this craft. Over here we have mirror power, which will increase multicraft. We have a concentration, which will, use less concentration. This will just give you skill value. This will increase your resourcefulness, and this will increase your ingenuity. And so you can play around with these numbers and see exactly what they do. So for example, if we attach, a quality 1 mirror powder right here, as you can see, the profit actually goes down drastically, and that's because this right here, is 350 gold, and the amount of multicraft that we get from this doesn't make up for that price. So you know that this is not worth using. In contrast, if we look at something like this, the resourcefulness, as you can see, it does still accidentally, make our profit go down, but not as badly. So based on this, we can change it. Okay, yep, not good enough. So based on this craft right here, I'm better off not using a finishing reagent, but this at least allows you to check before buying into something just to realize it's not profitable. Additionally, just another thing about simulation mode, there's a lot of things going on with CraftSim, but the last thing that I want to mention is this specialization info tab. This right here lists exactly what affects this particular craft. So in this case, we're looking at weaver cloth bolts. So we can see that less is more, extra threads, the perfect loop, quality fabric, as well as weaving and unraveling all affect this node. And you can see my current progression for that. However, this in combination with simulation mode allows you to see exactly what you can achieve if you max everything out. So for example, let's say I'm hoping to guarantee the next quality, right? I want to guarantee these at quality 3, but I'm not sure if I can. Right now with my current stats, I'm missing 158 skill. I know that item quality affects this, so I can up my item quality to quality 3, and now I'm missing 68. I can take this another step, and clicking this green button right here, it will actually simulate as if I had the perfect specialization setup, and as you can see, my missing skill is down to 6. Then if we take a look, I actually, I'm already max skilled up here, and I have 2 out of the 3 blue tools. I'm missing the last blue equipment piece right here. I need the upgraded coat, and I know, just based on what this gives me, if I upgrade my coat, this is going to give me the last skill points that I need. So I know that if I truly max all of this out, use quality 3 reagents, and get myself that last blue equipment, I will be able to guarantee this craft right here. If I wanted to see how much profit that would make me, I can either just go into here and add myself, 6 skill. There we go, I now have my expected quality. Or if you just want to do it the simple way, what I do is just toggle on concentration. Obviously, you're not going to use concentration, but it immediately takes you to that next quality. And this is just nice to see exactly what would happen if I can guarantee this. And if I did have all of these stats perfect, I'm looking at about, 13% profit. The last thing I want to mention is that if you hover over these, you can actually see what they do. For example, this right here is the ingenuity branch, and if you take a look, none of this gives skill. So actually you can put this to 0, and this doesn't really affect anything. Obviously, if you look at this gives you skill right here, so you definitely want it, as well as unraveling, and up here, this gives you multicraft as well as resourcefulness. So while it might not give you skill, if we decide to go back to 0, type in 0 right there, our multicraft updates, and as you can see, even though we can guarantee quality 3, it's actually not profitable because of how less multicraft we have. So this simulation mode just allows you to play around with those finishing reagents, as well as everything else, to ensure that whatever you're working towards is truly profitable. The last thing about this topic that I really want to bring up, and this is just kind of a reminder, is that don't forget about profession bags. Profession bags are crafted by tailors. They are BOP, so you have to order them off the work order system, and most of them require acuity, so that's going to be a little bit of an acuity cost right there. But these bags are actually very, very important for very specific tasks. For example, if you're a tailor going into unraveling, especially with the bolt prices going up and weaver cloth staying pretty okay, a lot of unraveling is pretty profitable, but let's take a look at the tailoring bag. This actually doesn't use acuity because, this one's cheaper because a tailor makes this for another tailor, and this increases the maximum yield of your unraveling by 1. And on paper, this doesn't seem extreme, but when you're dealing with a shuffle, that one item can make a huge difference. So if you're doing any sort of unraveling, this bag is basically 100% necessary if you truly want to make profit. Now, some of these are better than others. Right here, this one increases your resourcefulness, ingenuity, and multicraft when you're doing enchanting by 20. So once again, I would highly recommend it. This will increase the maximum amount of crushed gemstones that you get. So if you're doing crushing or prospecting, this is likely worth it. And you can just go by the list and see exactly what this does. For example, if you're doing any sort of leatherworking reagent crafting, that's personally what I'm doing, increasing your resourcefulness by 90 definitely makes a pretty big difference. So a lot of these profession bags have kind of been forgotten about, but definitely make sure you're picking up your profession bags, especially if you're doing the exact shuffles that these correspond to. Now, shifting away from CraftSim and all of that, I actually want to talk about battle pets. Now, yes, there's a lot of new battle pets added in the War Within, a lot of them are cute, but we're not talking about those in today's video. We're actually talking about some old battle pets that still have usage for professions. Up first, talking about cooking, we have Pierre as well as Little Ragnaros. Little Rag is actually a store pet, so some of you collectors out there, especially if you buy out the Blizzard store, might already have this, but if you don't, that's okay. What you can pick up is Pierre. Pierre is actually a battle pet crafted by engineering, so if you are a mop engineer, if you have Mr. Pandaria engineering, you probably can craft these. They do require the same exact item that Sky Golems do, so they're a little bit more, a pain to craft. But what Pierre basically is a portable cooking fire. And the same thing goes for Little Rag. So going back to cooking, let's say you're crafting up a bunch of items. In most cases, right, you're gonna have to go to a cooking fire or place one down, and that is just slightly annoying. It's not the end of the world per se, but it can just take up a little bit of extra time. However, if you have Pierre or if you have Little Rag, remember you can buy Pierre off the auction house or craft it yourself. Little Rag, you'll have to buy it from the store. This acts as a cooking fire. So we summoned him and he's hanging out with us, and now we can actually craft just like normal, which means you can actually sit by a mailbox per se, right here, and either mail off these items, or you can sit right inside of the auction house, craft all of these, immediately throw them up on the auction house, continue crafting back and forth, and now you never have to step foot out of the auction house. Now, these two are a little bit more niche, right? Not everybody enjoys cooking, but if you combine this with your finishing reagents, you can make a lot of profit per hour because you can get a lot of cooking done. But let's switch over to blacksmithing for the next battle pet. Now, at this point into the expansion, many of you are probably familiar with disenchant shuffling and how there's a lot of different shuffles going on. There's shuffles for gleaming shards, there's shuffles for storm dust, as well as shuffles for the crystals. And I actually have a dedicated video about disenchant shuffling if any of this interests you. However, one of the popular dust shuffles, so the grain dust, the storm dust shuffles, is to turn blacksmithing hammers into dust. Now, the exact thing that you do with blacksmithing slightly depends on your blacksmithing build. What you can do is either sit here and craft a bunch of alloys if you have some good at multi-craft and they're profitable, or just simply buy them off the auction house, and then people craft blacksmithing hammers, send them over to their disenchanter, and then disenchant it for dust. I'll have a screenshot of the current NA prices and how profitable this truly is, but this is one of the very popular shuffles that people are doing. However, with these shuffles, it's pretty annoying because, as you guys can see, you need a blacksmithing hammer, which is fine, but you also need an anvil, which traditionally means you have to go, sit by your profession table or sit by an anvil, and then your inventory gets full, you have to walk over to a mailbox, send it over, and repeat. However, with a battle pet named Alvin, you can actually sit at a mailbox and auto-send everything that you craft to make this fully AFKable. So all you're going to need is Alvin the Anvil. This is actually a blacksmithing pet that was introduced in Dragonflight, so it's pretty new for a lot of people. That being said, it's also slightly expensive, so do be prepared to pay anywhere between 20 to 50k for this item, but this is basically just a portable anvil. So what you can do is, put it on your hotbar if you'd like, and if we use him, as you can see, now we can sit here at this mailbox and craft away. Now, as we do this, of course, our inventory is going to get full up, and this is where we can use TSM to help us out. What you're going to need to do is open up your TSM groups menu, just create a group. I called it Mail Hammer, very straightforward, and then you're going to want to make sure you have a base item selected. Select your hammer and bring it over to groups. To show you this real quick, right here we're on a base, and then we're just going to select the hammer, which should hopefully be down right here. Boom, right here, this blacksmithing hammer. Hit add item, and then you're practically good to go. Only other thing you need to do is go into operations, select override, and then create a mailing operation. In this case, I have one already, and then just put in whatever character that you want to send these items to. If you have a disenchanter on another toon, then just put your disenchanter's name there. If you are a blacksmith and disenchanter on the same toon, just pick an alt. You can return the items later, but you just have to send these items away from this character. But once you have that good to go, you have Alvin out, you can go over here and start crafting the hammers. There we go. And if you open up the mailbox, go to groups, and then have that group selected, hold shift, and then you'll see this auto resend and just hit go. From there, every single minute, your items will be sent to whoever you said, and that's basically it. Now we're going to be talking about crafting speed in just a second, but you just want to make sure that you have enough inventory space so it doesn't fill up within a minute, and then also, you want to make sure you have enough materials so you can walk away. But in this case, based on my crafting speed as well as how many hammers I'm making, I can walk away for basically 8 minutes, come back, all of these will be sent over to my disenchanter, and I'll be good to go. And of course, can apply this to anything that needs an anvil, so you don't have to do this for shuffling, but specifically about shuffling, this is super handy. And as you guys can see, all of those hammers were just sent away, again, without me doing anything. So if you're looking for a way to make your shuffles a little bit more AFKable, this is definitely very, very useful. Now, for those who don't want to pay up for Alvin the Anvil, if you can't get it for a good price, you can buy these thermal anvils or craft them yourself. Currently on NA, they're going for about 100 gold. They do have 20 charges, but they only last for 5 minutes. This does work as a forge and anvil, meaning you can do this to craft a lot more items, but you'll only be able to AFK for 5 minutes. So this is definitely not as good, but if you are on a budget, this is something you can look forward to at least increase your AFK time a little bit more. And shifting away from battle pets, let's talk about crafting speed. Now, crafting speed is exactly what it sounds like. This is one of the secondary stats for crafting professions that just increases how fast you can craft individual items. This is very important for how much profit you're making per day or per hour, because let's say without crafting speed, you're making 1,000 items per hour. If those are all profitable, all of a sudden you get crafting speed and now you can make 1,500 per hour at the same profit rate. You are simply just making more items, which means more profit in the same amount of time. And currently in the War Within, the maximum crafting speed that you can get is 75%, and that is actually quite easy to achieve. We're going to look at tailoring for this example, but this really applies to all professions. But let's talk about the easy stats first. Up first, you'll likely notice that your profession equipment gives you crafting speed. For example, right here, this is the needle set for tailoring, and this gives me resourcefulness as well as crafting speed. And because this is the blue quality at quality 5, this is giving as much crafting speed as I can from this particular item. If you have the green one, then obviously upgrading to the blue is going to be your next step. And let's say you're at like blue quality 2, getting yourself to quality 5 is going to increase that stat a lot. But simply from your profession equipment, you can get crafting speed. Up next, we have 2 files that you can use to actually increase your speed even more. Now, I've talked about this in my shuffling video, but this right here, this file of the quick hands, is actually the Dragonflight version of your crafting speed file. And if you read the tooltip right here, it says increases the speed you craft Dragon Isles recipes by 30%. 30% is because it's a quality 3, and this actually affects the current War Within crafts. By the tooltip, that should not happen, so at some point if you're watching this video, maybe it's patched at some point, but currently this actually works. So for example, if we were to craft 1 bolt right here, I have about, a 1.4 crafting speed, nothing crazy. However, if I use this file, I get that 30% right there. My crafting speed is now 60, and now I'm looking at 0.8 seconds instead of what I saw earlier. And the cool thing about this is not only does this file work, but it actually stacks with the War Within file. So this enhanced ambidextry is actually the current content version of this. This right here is just a quality 2. Quality 2 means this will only give me a 10% bonus. If I want to pay up for the quality 3, that would get me 15%, but this actually stacks. So we're at 60, and if we decide to use this, another 30-minute buff, and now I'm at 70%. So now I'm looking at 0.6 instead of that 0.8. And these are pretty cheap. You know, the quick hands, which are old expansion, this right here is costing like 10 to 20 gold a piece. This one's a little bit more expensive at about 200 to 300 gold. The quality 3 version is a couple thousand, so you're definitely paying up for those extra percentages, but already we've gone from like 30 to 70, and our speeds are definitely pretty fast. Moving on, something that's slightly more difficult is actually a reputation based. The Weaver, which is kind of a sub-renown to the Severed Threads, actually gives you renown bonuses for crafting speed. If you get to the Collaborator level right here, which is level 5 out of 9, which really is not that hard to do, just go around the map in that zone and just complete side quest. You'll get some quests there, and then of course when you choose your weekly pack, choose the Weaver, and once you hit 5 out of 9, you'll gain this buff on all characters that immediately give you a 15% crafting boost. So that's why I was starting at 30 already, because I passively have that 15% increase from just being high enough reputation. The next step that you can do, which currently I don't have this, but if you get 2 more steps higher, so instead of 5 out of 9, if you make it to 7 out of 9, which is the a better standing, I'll have a screenshot on screen, but this buff goes from 15% all the way up to 30%. So automatically, just like that, you can get a whole nother 15%. Now, like I said, do keep in mind that your max crafting speed is 75, so even if you technically have more percentage, it won't pass that mark, or it lags the game way too badly, but if you have 30% from that reputation, you can probably save gold by not purchasing one of the files, etc. There's also a few racial abilities that increase crafting speed with specific professions, which you could use as well. And the final thing that I want to mention is for cooking specifically, which is the Chef's Hat. The Chef's Hat is actually a toy from Wrath of the Lich King, and this significantly increases your crafting speed. This is only for cooking, so if you don't plan on doing any cooking, you can skip this part of the video, but traditionally how you get this item is through a handful of dailies. You kind of have to do cooking dailies for about a month and you'll get this toy. However, you can get this in a single day if you do a Wrath time walking. I'll have a dedicated YouTube short that talks about exactly what you need to do, but basically for 2,500 time walking badges, you can get enough currency to buy the Chef's Hat, which is usable on all characters because it's simply a toy. All you need to do is use it, and then you'll have the buff up here, and you're good to go. At the time of watching this video, right, I am recording it on September 14th, and the next Wrath time walking for NA is October 10th. So you still got 3 weeks to wait if you want to go for that Chef's Hat. You can of course do the dailies if you'd like, but at the end of the day, save the time for October, pick up the Chef's Hat, because even if you don't want to do cooking this expansion, you can use it for next or even the one after that. I've been using the Chef's Toy for multiple expansions and it's still working very, very well. Then lastly, I know this video is getting quite long, but the last thing that I want to iterate is profession tools. Many people do not know is that you can actually choose what is on your profession tool, and you can either do this if you're crafting a high-end item by using a missive. For example, if you want to guarantee multi-craft on a tool, you can simply look up multi-craft and use a missive right there. But if you are, looking for green tools, you can simply just check the auction house. For example, let's say we're looking at blacksmithing equipment right here, current expansion only, and let's say we need, let's do the highest rank right here. Boom, there we go. This is our profession tool. If we look at the cheapest one, this is actually a resourcefulness tool. So if you're crafting a bunch of armor, this might be good, but let's say I want to be an alloy crafter, so multi-craft is extremely important. Boom, right here, this is crafting speed, and so on, resourcefulness, ingenuity, and hopefully we'll find, boom, okay, right here, this is a multi-craft tool. So then I know to buy this specific hammer right here, and I'm good to go. A lot of people are just buying the cheapest of whatever's out there, and sometimes it's a case where you might have to pay up more if you really want a specific stat, but this is going to allow you to increase profits for the actual items you're crafting. On top of that, make sure you pick up an enchant. If you look up enchant right here, and you can actually just look up enchant tool, group it by current expansion, and these are all related to your crafting or your gathering tools. Now, you do have the different qualities, so if you don't want to pay for the super expensive ones, you can get the lesser ones, but as you can see, there's a perception, finesse, as well as deftness for all of your gatherers out there, and then you also have resourcefulness and ingenuity. So in my case right here, this is my multi-craft tool. There's not a multi-craft enchant, so I have a multi-craft tool with a resourcefulness enchant, which increases my profit a lot. But yeah guys, that's about it for today's video. Hopefully you learned something new or just something applicable to your current professions, and hopefully this is going to allow you to make some extra gold. Whether you're just simply increasing the amount of items you can craft per hour, or you're using some finishing reagents to increase your profit per item, you can make more gold in the War Within with just these simple adjustments. Don't forget about your profession tool enchants, don't forget about picking up some battle pets if they're useful, and check out the shuffles, because even if disenchant shuffles used to be non-profitable, I highly recommend checking back because a lot of them are doing very good right now. But if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, and have a good day.